From the tranquil landscapes of the Pacific Northwest emerges a story shrouded in mystery, intrigue, and unanswered questions. During an end-of-summer camping trip, a young family suddenly disappears without a trace. This is the story of the Cowden family murders. The early 1970s marked a period of economic uncertainty in the United States, with high inflation and unemployment rates. Oregon, like other states, grappled with economic challenges, particularly in industries such as logging and manufacturing. The Watergate scandal, which led to President Richard Nixon's resignation in August 1974, was dominating the news. Popular culture included trends such as disco music, bell-bottom pants, and iconic television shows like Happy Days and All in the Family. It was against this backdrop that the Cowden family made their fateful last-minute decision to go camping over Labor Day weekend. Richard Cowden, age 28, his wife Belinda, 22, and their children, David, age 5, and Melissa, 5 months, were residents of White City, Oregon. Richard supported the family by working as a truck driver for a logging company. On August 30, 1974, the family, along with their pet basset hound Droopy, arrived at a campground near Carberry Creek in Copper, Oregon, an area they had frequented in the past. They parked their 1956 Ford pickup truck on Carberry Creek Road, a short distance from the campground. 2 days later, on the morning of September 1st, Richard and his son David arrived at the Copper General Store at approximately 9 a.m. and purchased a carton of milk. The two left the store on foot, heading towards their campsite. This was the last sighting of any member of the family. Later that evening, when the family failed to arrive for a pre-planned dinner with Belinda's mother, who lived less than a mile from the campground, she went to the campsite near the creek but found no one there. The family's belongings, however, were all present. A plastic dishpan full of cold water lay on the ground, while the keys to the family's truck, as well as Belinda's purse, were in plain sight on a picnic table. The diaper bag, as well as the camp stove, fully assembled, were also in plain view. The carton of milk Richard had purchased earlier that morning sat on the table half full. Unable to locate her daughter, son-in-law, or grandchildren, Belinda's mother panicked when she noticed several items belonging to Richard laying on the ground. These included an expensive watch as well as his wallet, which contained $21. She also found an unopened pack of cigarettes, which she identified as being the brand Belinda was known to smoke. The family's truck, which was parked on the road, still contained their clothing, with only their bathing suits missing. Belinda's mother left the campground to notify police. The family's pet basset hound Droopy would be found scratching at the front door of the Copper General Store the next morning. The sheriff, state troopers, and the District 3 office of the Oregon State Police arrived at the scene. Lieutenant Mark Kezar would take the lead. He would later state that the investigation had been delayed for maybe a day because of the lack of indication that anything violent had occurred at the campsite. At the time, the search for the missing family was one of the largest in Oregon history and included assistance from state and local police, numerous volunteers, the United States Forest Service, and the Oregon National Guard. 25 miles of roads and trails surrounding the campsite were searched, and helicopters and planes were flown over the area, equipped with infrared photography, which would detect recently overturned dirt. However, despite this massive search effort, law enforcement was unable to find any evidence of a crime. Interviews were conducted with over 150 individuals, and a $2,000 reward was offered for additional information regarding the family's disappearance. With the hunting season fast approaching, Richard's sister wrote a letter to the Medford Mail Tribune pleading that hunters be alert to anything that could be connected to the family. 7 months later, on April 12, 1975, two gold prospectors from Forest Grove, Oregon, hiking through the woods near Carberry Creek, discovered the decomposing body of an adult male tied to a tree on a steep hillside. In a cave nearby, the bodies of an adult female, a child, and an infant were discovered. Positive identification was made via dental records. The Cowden family had been located. The location where the bodies were discovered was approximately 7 miles from the family's campsite and well within the original search area. Autopsies revealed that Belinda and 5-year-old David had died as a result of .22 caliber gunshot wounds. 5-month-old Melissa had died from severe head trauma. Law enforcement suspected Richard died at the site where his body was found, but they were unable to determine a cause of death. It was surmised by investigators that Belinda and the two children could have potentially been killed elsewhere and subsequently concealed in the cave. Law enforcement searched the surrounding area for a murder weapon but was unable to recover one. Following the discovery of the bodies, interviews were again conducted with numerous individuals who were at the campground on September 1st. One family from Los Angeles had arrived at the campground at 5 p.m. that day. While walking in the park that evening, they witnessed 2 men and a woman parked nearby in a pickup truck. The father recalled, "They acted like they were waiting for us to leave, and frankly, they made us nervous. So we moved on." Based on the location of Belinda's and the children's bodies inside the cave, Lieutenant Kezar suspected that the person responsible was a local resident who knew the area and was aware of the cave location. After the family's remains were recovered, a resident of Grants Pass who had volunteered in the search told police that during the original search in September, he had searched the cave where Belinda and the children were found, and they were not there at that time. To confirm he was referring to the same cave, law enforcement had the man escort them to the cave he had searched. It was the same cave where the bodies were discovered. Police settled on Dwayne Lee Little of Rouge, Oregon, who was 25 at the time of the family's disappearance, as the prime suspect in their murders. With a lengthy violent criminal history, Little had been paroled from the Oregon State Penitentiary just 3 months before the Cowdens disappeared. State police were able to determine that Little had been in Copper over the Labor Day weekend at the approximate time the family disappeared. Police suspected that the 2 men and woman in the truck reported by the Los Angeles family at the campground were in fact Little and his parents, as their truck matched the description provided by the family. Little and his parents denied any knowledge of the family's disappearance. However, a minor who owned a cabin nearby claimed that Little and his parents had stopped by on Monday, September 2, 1974, and signed the guest book he kept for visitors. In 1980, Little was charged and convicted of the attempted homicide of pregnant 23-year-old Margie Hunter, whose car had broken down near Portland, Oregon, and he was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences. As of 2020, he was still in prison in Oregon. The murder of the Cowden family has been described as one of Oregon's most haunting and baffling mysteries. The case received nationwide attention at the time of its occurrence and were also the subject of a chapter in the book But I Trusted You by the crime writer Ann Rule, which I have linked below. Despite the large amount of circumstantial evidence against him, Little has never been charged with the murders of the Cowden family, and no other suspects are being considered. It seems as though true justice may never be served. Despite the passage of time, the tragic events of Labor Day 1974 remain a haunting chapter in Oregon's history, leaving unanswered questions and lingering mysteries. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and may the truth reveal itself in the shadows.